Greetings once again. We are returning in this episode to readings from the book What is Man? Adam, Alien, or Ape? And we've been working our way through the book, and we've come to chapter 4. And chapter 4 is entitled The Cosmic Cookbook. And that's the amusing title. And the serious title is A Fine-Tuned Universe. So we'll begin reading. The chapter is headed by two quotations. The first is from Sir Fred Hoyle, who in 1982 wrote, "A common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics." Sir Fred Hoyle was a famous cosmologist, and he is saying a common sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super intellect has monkeyed with physics. And then the second quotation is from Sir Martin Rees, who is the Astronomer Royal of the United Kingdom, and he writes, 6 numbers constitute a recipe for a universe. Moreover, the outcome is sensitive to their values. If any one of them were to be untuned, there would be no stars and no life. Writing in the year 2000, the Astronomer Royal of the United Kingdom. In the previous 2 chapters, we have already seen that the question, where is man, has a strong and direct bearing on the primary issue of what is man. But there is still much more to say about the cosmic environment in which we find ourselves. So we're going to pursue the matter further by exploring the so-called fine-tuning of the universe. The fact that its physical properties are just right to permit the existence of planets and of life. I should explain at the outset that there is an enormous literature on the subject. Much of it is highly complicated and mathematical. I shall mention some of this specialized material and provide references for those who want to go deeper. But the treatment here will only skim the surface, though hopefully in an accurate, interesting, and informative way. In his book, Just 6 Numbers, Sir Martin Rees describes how the physical laws and constants of our universe appear to be fine-tuned to support life. In doing so, he asks the following questions. Is this tuning just a brute fact, a coincidence? Or is it the providence of a benign creator? I take the view that it is neither. An infinity of other universes may well exist where the numbers are different. Martin Rees is being honest. He is writing a book which celebrates the fact that our physical universe appears to me amazingly well suited to provide for our existence. That is, the laws of nature, and specifically the values of the constants that appear in these laws are exactly what they need to be. If some of them were different, even by very small amounts, life would be impossible anywhere in the universe. Rees wanted to avoid the brute fact explanation that we considered at some length in Chapter 2, because he recognized that it actually explains nothing. But on the other hand, he wasn't keen to give credit for this fine-tuning to a creator. So he sought and found an escape route, claiming that among an infinity of possible universes, ours is a lucky one, where the laws and constants just happen to be hospitable to intelligent life. This, of course, is no more than an extension of the lucky planet narrative, which we studied in Chapter 3. We shall examine the validity of multiverse scenarios later. But first, we need to know more about the fine-tuning that Martin Rees highlights and is seeking to explain, or rather, explain away. Rees limits himself to just 6 fine-tuned physical quantities for 2 reasons. Firstly, he was writing a popular level book and wanted to keep it simple. Secondly, he believed that the selected numbers really are the most important. Some writers go much further, identifying as many as 93 instances of finely tuned physical quantities. But here, for simplicity, I shall follow Martin Rees's example and limit myself to his 6 case studies. They will be quite sufficient to make the point. Subheading: Monkeying with Physics. The fact that our universe or cosmos appears to be fine-tuned to permit the existence of life, and especially intelligent life, is called the anthropic principle, from the Greek anthropos meaning man. Most scientists working in relevant fields agree that certain of the physical constants that define the behavior of matter and energy need to have the values that they do for the universe to be habitable. Even slight variations from the observed values would render life impossible. Remarking on this fact, the British astrophysicist Sir Fred Hoyle declared, "It looks like a put-up job," and later wrote, "A common-sense interpretation of the facts suggests that a super-intellect has monkeyed with physics." What prompted his suspicions? He had realized that the basic building blocks of living things, the element carbon, could only be formed in stars from hydrogen and helium if the carbon atom had a special resonance at a particular energy. A resonance is the ability of a system to absorb energy when conditions are just right. A wine glass may shatter when a singer hits exactly the resonant frequency of the glass, and a bridge may begin to sway dangerously if soldiers march across it in step at a particular speed. Hoyle predicted that carbon must possess the precise resonance needed for its formation in stars, and this was later shown to be correct. The famous Princeton physicist Freeman Dyson also recognized the reality of fine-tuning, saying, "The more I examine the universe and the details of its architecture, the more evidence I find that the universe, in some sense, must have known we were coming. Likewise, cosmologist Stephen Hawking, in his book A Brief History of Time, declares, "The laws of science contain many fundamental numbers, like the size of the electric charge on the electron and the ratio of the masses of the proton and the electron. We cannot, at the moment at least, predict the value of these numbers from theory. We have to find them by observation. The remarkable fact is that the value of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life." Physics professor and writer Paul Davies calls fine-tuning, quotes, "the Goldilocks enigma," close quotes, because, like Little Bear's porridge, chair, and bed in Goldilocks and the Three Bears, the physics of our cosmos are, to a remarkable degree, just right to support life. He also confesses, "Through my scientific work, I have come to believe more and more strongly that the physical universe is put together with an ingenuity so astonishing that I cannot accept it merely as a brute fact." Finally, in a foreword to a recent book by Geraint Lewis and Luke Barnes entitled A Fortunate Universe, Life in a Finely Tuned Cosmos, the 2011 Nobel Physics laureate Brian Schmidt says the authors, quotes, "take you on a tour of the cosmos in all of its glory and all of its mystery. You will see that humanity appears to be part of a remarkable set of circumstances involving a special time on a special planet which orbits a special star, all within a specially constructed universe. It is these conditions that have allowed humans to ponder our place in space and time. I have no idea why we are here, but I do know the universe is beautiful. A Fortunate Universe," that's the title of the book. "A Fortunate Universe captures the mysterious beauty of the cosmos in a way that all can share." Subheading: Explaining fine-tuning away. Although the degree or even existence of fine-tuning is disputed by some scientists, and notably the late Victor Stenger, most experts agree that it is a genuine and quite remarkable phenomenon that cries out for an explanation. Of course, a simple explanation is that the universe was deliberately made this way by an intelligent creator who knew what he was doing, in short, by God. But those who reject the concept of divine creation often invoke the idea of a multiverse to escape the theological implications of fine-tuning. They argue that our universe is simply one of a potentially infinite number of possible universes, each having its own different physical constants and/or laws of nature. Among such an infinitude of possible worlds, they say, there must by pure chance be one that has just the right combination of physical attributes to give rise to intelligent life. We just happen to live in that favored but fortuitous universe. If we were anywhere else, we wouldn't exist. So can we dismiss fine-tuning as a happy accident? I don't think so. You've heard the saying, divide and conquer, but it is sometimes more effective in ideological warfare to multiply universes and conquer. To illustrate this, let me quote something that happened during the Vietnam War. The British Evening News carried the following report. The Pentagon is buying huge quantities of tinsel-like chaff to throw a blizzard of confusing images into radars guiding North Vietnam's anti-aircraft guns. The chaff, made up of thread-sized strips of aluminium-coated fiberglass, is fired in puffs by American pilots approaching a bombing target area. The puffs reflect the enemy radar signals and create blips on radar screens, just like planes, confusing the anti-aircraft crews. So, might the multiverse be just a diversionary tactic, an escape mechanism crafted from conceptual tinsel to prevent atheistic cosmologists being shot down by the evidence? It's a serious question, and one we must explore. Those who propose the existence of a multiverse claim that it provides a naturalistic, though hardly scientific, explanation of why our universe seems designed to support life. Cosmologist Luke Barnes sums up the debate in his exhaustive technical review of fine-tuning and offers us two options. Quotes, "This universe is one of a large number of variegated universes produced by physical processes that randomly scan through the set of possible physics. Eventually, a universe will be created that is a member of the life-permitting set. Only such universes can be observed, since only such universes contain observers." Well, that's option number one. Alternatively, option number two, continuing the quotation, "There exists a transcendent personal entity who desires to create a universe in which other minds will be able to form. Thus, the entity chooses from the set of possibilities a universe which is foreseen to evolve intelligent life." Of course, the divine, quotes, entity, close quotes, could also have dispensed with evolution. But either way, we clearly have a choice. Barnes goes on to affirm the reality of fine-tuning, concluding that the universe is fine-tuned for the existence of life. Of all the ways that the laws of nature, constants of physics, and initial conditions of the universe could have been, only a very small subset permits the existence of intelligent life. Subheading: Fine-tuning needs to be explained. Let's pause to summarize what we've seen so far. Most cosmologists agree that the laws of nature in our universe are, for no obvious scientific reason, just right to support life. However, many people dismiss this observation by saying that if this were not the case, we wouldn't be here to tell the tale. That is no doubt true, but it doesn't alter the fact that fine-tuning needs an explanation. Why not? Here are two reasons. Firstly, the universe would still be fine-tuned for life even if we weren't here. Indeed, it had to be fine-tuned before life could begin or survive on planet Earth. This is what Freeman Dyson meant by suggesting that the universe knew, quotes, "we were coming," close quotes, as quoted earlier. When I was commuting regularly to London by train, I once fell asleep on the evening return journey. A fellow traveller who knew where I always got off the train kindly woke me up, but suppose he hadn't done so, and I had slept on until the train reached its final destination. If on arriving there I saw a banner saying, "Welcome, Edgar Andrews," I would have been immensely surprised, since no one could have known I was coming. An explanation would have been needed. Any such anticipation of the future, or teleology, implies purpose, and purpose requires the activity of mind. Creation by God explains both fine-tuning and purpose, but chance can provide neither. Secondly, it is a complete fallacy to argue that the existence of an infinite number of universes would guarantee the presence of some that are life-supporting. You could have an infinite number of universes composed entirely of Higgs bosons or hydrogen molecules that would be completely sterile. It's not just weight of numbers that is needed, but a combination of physical processes. These must provide 1. A mechanism for making universes that scans systematically through all possible variations of physical laws and constants, making universes as it goes. 2. A database containing all possible laws and constants from which the mechanism can select ingredients. In other words, there has to be a cosmic cookbook from which the recipe for each new universe can be selected. 3. A guarantee that at least one such recipe contains the ingredients necessary to support life. This, I suggest, is quite a tall order for a process completely unknown to science. But let's suppose that such a cosmic scan was indeed completed. Since every possible combination of laws and constants had to be tried, wasn't the creation of our own universe inevitable? Not at all. Who is to say which combinations are possible and which are not? Some rules would need to be imposed to exclude, say, self-contradictory combinations. But establishing such a filter would require a rational process. Then again, why should the cosmic cookbook referred to above include any life-sustaining recipes? You may reply that the database must include such options because we live in a life-sustaining universe. But this is a circular argument, since it assumes the existence and contents of the database, the very things that, according to multiverse supporters, fine-tuning is supposed to demonstrate. The existence of one life-friendly universe actually tells us nothing about the existence or non-existence of a cosmic cookbook. That contains the ingredients needed to create it. Our universe could be a completely standalone phenomenon, even if a cosmic database does exist. Who is to say that the fine-tuned cosmos we know is derived from that database and not an independent phenomenon that owes nothing to the hypothetical database? Suppose, for example, that police are using a DNA database to identify the perpetrator of a crime. But that database contains only records of offenders over 20. then a complete scan of the database would produce no match with the DNA of a teenage suspect. But that wouldn't mean that the teenager was innocent of the crime. In the same way, there is no guarantee that a cosmic database would include the combination of factors necessary for the support of life, unless, of course, it had been designed to do so. And if a cosmic cookbook does exist, who or what compiled it? As with the authorship of the laws of nature we considered in Chapter 2, the only candidate I can see for the role of Master Chef is God. But now let's look in more detail at Martin Rees's 6 necessary ingredients for a life-supporting cosmos. But before we go any further, I should make one thing clear. The science-based fine-tuning argument, whether advanced by Rees, Barnes, or anyone else, relies heavily upon Big Bang cosmology, the idea that the universe originated in a tiny volume that contained all space, time, energy, and matter, and then expanded to its present size over vast periods of time and continues to do so. The experimental evidence supporting this so-called standard model of the cosmos has persuaded all but a few cosmologists of its basic truth, though they still argue over important details. The fine-tuning scenarios advanced by the scientists quoted above, and many others like them, are based largely on a single idea. The universe evolved from a Big Bang origin in such a way that, for no obvious reason, certain effects balanced out to a remarkable degree to provide a habitable universe. I am conscious that some readers will reject this view on theological grounds. For example, it is logically possible to maintain that the Big Bang never happened, that the universe is fine-tuned simply because the Creator made it that way de novo, so there is nothing further to discuss. For any who take this view, the remainder of this chapter and the next may perhaps seem pointless, but I hope not. Many who, like myself, do believe in divine creation see value in the discussion we've embarked upon. Why? Because working on the evidence provided by secular science, it allows us to build a case for creation that cannot be dismissed out of hand, even by skeptics. We have, in fact, already trodden some way down this path in Chapter 2, where we saw the purely secular thinking that can lead us unexpectedly to the necessity of God. What exactly is fine-tuned? Subheading. So let's now consider what exactly has been fine-tuned. It depends on who you ask. For example, while Martin Rees talks about just 6 numbers, Christian apologist Hugh Ross recognizes 93 fine-tuned life-supporting quantities in the cosmos, while others offer intermediate estimates. In this chapter, I shall adopt Rees's parsimonious option, if only to be brief for my benefit and avoid boredom for yours. Luke Barnes points out that Rees himself could easily have included other constants in his fine-tuning argument. So please accept my apologies now if I don't say anything about your own favourite example of fine-tuning. The 6 numbers that Martin Rees says are fine-tuned are constants. That is, the numbers that turn up in certain laws of nature. Notice that Rees refers to the physical laws and constants of our universe, making a distinction between laws and constants. By laws, he means the way relevant variable quantities relate to one another. By constants, he means non-varying terms that are included when laws are expressed mathematically. So let me unpack the difference between constants and variables. Suppose you go to a particular cinema, theatre, or concert hall, take your pick, on a regular basis. The building doesn't change. It's always in the same place. It always has the same size and seating arrangements. You may not like the acoustics or the decor, but you have to put up with them because they don't change from month to month. These, quotes, always the same, close quotes, things are constants of your experience as a cinema-goer. But each time you go, there are some things that do change, specifically the film you watch and the people who attend. These, quotes, things that change, close quotes, are variables in your experience. In the same way, the laws of nature, when they are written down as equations, usually contain both constants and variables. For example, Newton's law of gravity involves the gravitational force F between 2 masses, m1 and m2, and d, the distance between the 2 masses, but g is the gravitational constant, giving the formula F equals g times m1 times m2 divided by d squared. Obviously, the 2 masses and their separation can change from case to case, which also causes a change in the force. These things are therefore variables. But the gravitational constant g never changes. It is a fixed constant of nature, and its value can be measured, but not predicted by any theory. It is a brute fact that we have to put up with. A second well-known example is Einstein's famous equation linking mass and energy. E, that's the energy, equals m, that's the mass, multiplied by c squared, that's the velocity of light, the speed of light, multiplied by itself, E equals mc squared. E and m, energy and mass, are obviously variable and can have any value depending on the mass selected. But the speed of light is a constant whose never-changing value can be measured, but once again, not predicted. It is also a brute fact of nature. In discussing fine-tuning, it is the constants of nature that are important. Most fine-tuning claims concern the specific value of these constants, which it is argued are just right within narrow ranges to permit the existence of biological life in the universe. Since we have no idea why a constant of nature takes the value it does, these values are, from our perspective at least, arbitrary. They could have been different, but if we were different, the universe as we know it, and life in particular, could not exist. This cries out for an explanation, And that is something that is difficult to find. Now, we're going to stop there. It's halfway through chapter 4 of the book Who Made God, which is available online. And we're going to leave the second half of the treatment of cosmic fine-tuning to the next episode, just in order to keep these episodes at a reasonable length. We're just going to look next time then at the 6 specific constants that Martin Rees says must be fine-tuned to allow life to exist.